Hey kids, it's July 3rd, Friday. It's been a beautiful day. We picked you up early today because one of you wasn't feeling very well and had a fever. But despite that, it was still a calm and pleasant day. As I've mentioned before, I'm deeply interested in psychology, human behavior, how the brain works, and how we make decisions. Today's subject connects closely with our recent talk about the gator and the judge, our fast, automatic reactions, and our slower, more deliberate thinking. Today, I want to talk about cognitive biases. The human mind is incredibly powerful. It helps us solve problems, understand people, build things, create things, love, survive, and make difficult decisions. But our minds are not perfect. Sometimes they can trick us. Not because we're stupid, not because we're weak or uneducated, and not because something is wrong with us. Our minds use shortcuts. Most of these shortcuts exist for good reasons. They help us react quickly, conserve energy, recognize patterns, and make ordinary decisions without carefully analyzing every detail. If a car suddenly comes toward you, you don't want to spend 5 minutes studying the situation. You want to move. But the same shortcuts that sometimes protect us can also mislead us. Those misleading shortcuts are called cognitive biases. A cognitive bias is a predictable way our thinking can bend reality without clearly informing us that it has done so. And this is the dangerous part. When you're biased, you usually don't feel biased. You feel correct. Your interpretation feels obvious. It may even feel like common sense. Being wrong occasionally is not the greatest danger. The greater danger is being wrong while feeling completely certain that you're right. The Stoics didn't use the modern term cognitive bias, but they understood the general problem very well. Epictetus taught that we are often disturbed not simply by events themselves, but by the judgments we make about them. Something happens, then our minds assign meaning to it. And we often react not only to the event, but to the story we've created around it. Imagine that someone doesn't reply to your message. That is the event. Your mind might immediately say, "They're ignoring me. They don't respect me. They don't care about me." Suddenly, you're no longer dealing with an unanswered message. You're dealing with rejection, anger, fear, or insecurity. But perhaps the person was simply busy. Maybe they forgot. Maybe their phone died. Maybe they're struggling with something they haven't told you about. This is why one of the most important skills in life is learning to create a pause between what happens and what you decide it means. That pause is where wisdom begins. Today, I want to share 10 common cognitive biases. Not so that you become suspicious of every thought you have. Your mind is still a gift. But I want you to become a little more humble, open-minded, patient, and careful about what you believe. 1. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias means we naturally notice evidence that supports what we already believe, while ignoring evidence that challenges us. Imagine you decide that someone is lazy. You'll notice every time they arrive late or fail to finish something. But you may overlook the occasions when they work hard, help others, or take responsibility. If you believe someone is wonderful, the opposite can happen. You notice everything kind they do and excuse behavior that should concern you. This happens in friendships, families, workplaces, politics, and almost every other area of life. Once we form a belief, our minds can begin behaving like lawyers trying to defend it. But wisdom requires us to act more like fair judges. A lawyer wants to win. A good judge wants to understand. So when you feel extremely certain, ask, what evidence would change my mind? If your honest answer is nothing, then you may no longer be thinking. You may simply be defending. 2. Availability bias. Availability bias means we judge how likely something is by how easily examples come to mind. After seeing dramatic news about a plane crash, flying may suddenly feel extremely dangerous. After hearing about a robbery, an entire city may begin to feel unsafe. But memorable events are not always common events. They may simply be vivid, emotional, or recent. Your mind says, "I can easily imagine this happening, so it must be likely." But imagination is not the same as probability. When something feels common or dangerous, ask, "Is this truly likely, or is it simply easy to remember?" Sometimes the loudest example is not the most representative one. 3. Anchoring bias. Anchoring happens when the first number, idea, price, or impression strongly influences everything that follows. Suppose a jacket is first priced at €300 and then reduced to 150. Suddenly, 150 feels cheap, but perhaps the jacket was never worth more than 100. The original price becomes an anchor, and you compare everything with it. This happens with houses, salaries, negotiations, and investments. It also happens with people. If someone makes a poor first impression, you may continue judging them through that initial moment, even after they behave differently. First information carries more weight than it often deserves. So be careful with first prices, first impressions, and first explanations. They may influence your judgment far more than you realize. 4. Loss aversion. Loss aversion means that losing something usually hurts more than gaining the same thing feels good. Losing €100 may hurt more than gaining €100 makes you happy. This can cause people to remain in situations they should leave. They stay in bad jobs because they fear losing stability. They stay in unhealthy relationships because they fear losing the years they've already invested. They reject good opportunities because failure might feel painful. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should take foolish risks, but avoiding every possible loss is not the same as living wisely. A life built entirely around avoiding pain may also prevent growth, courage, love, and opportunity. Instead of asking only, "How do I avoid losing something?" also ask, "What is the right decision according to my values?" Sometimes, doing what is right costs you comfort, certainty, pride, or security. That doesn't automatically make it the wrong choice. 5. The Dunning-Kruger effect. This idea is often used too casually, but the basic lesson is valuable. When we know very little about something, we may not yet understand enough to recognize the limits of our knowledge. As we learn more, we begin seeing how complicated the subject really is. That's why beginners sometimes say, "This is easy," while experienced people are more likely to say, "It depends." The deeper your knowledge becomes, the more aware you may become of what you still don't know. Confidence is useful, but confidence without humility can become dangerous. So, whenever a complicated subject feels extremely simple, especially when you've only just begun learning about it, slow down. Learn to say, "I may be wrong. I don't know enough yet. I need more information." That is not weakness. That is intellectual honesty. 6. Hindsight bias. Hindsight bias happens when, after an event, we convince ourselves that the outcome was obvious all along. A company fails, and people say, "Of course it failed. Anyone could see that." The stock market falls, and suddenly everyone claims the warning signs were obvious. A football team loses, and people say the result was completely predictable. But life often looks far clearer after the result is known. Beforehand, there was uncertainty. There were competing possibilities. There was information nobody had. The past can look like a straight line, when in reality, it was full of crossroads. So when something goes wrong, don't torture yourself by pretending you should have known everything. Ask, "Given what I genuinely knew at the time, was my decision reasonable?" Learn from the result, but don't rewrite history just to punish yourself. 7. Self-serving bias. Self-serving bias means that when things go well, we tend to give ourselves a great deal of credit. When things go badly, we often blame circumstances. If we succeed, we say, "I worked hard." If we fail, we say, "I was unlucky." The truth is usually more balanced. Your effort matters, your preparation matters, but timing, luck, circumstances, and other people also matter. When you succeed, remain grateful and humble. When you fail, don't blame everything outside yourself. Ask, what was within my control? What did I do well? What could I improve? Take responsibility for your part without pretending you control the entire world. 8. Fundamental attribution error. This one sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. When other people make mistakes, we often blame their character. When we make similar mistakes, we blame the situation. If another driver cuts us off, we say, "What an idiot." But when we cut someone else off, we say, "I was distracted. I was in a hurry. I nearly missed my exit." We judge other people by their actions while judging ourselves by our intentions. That isn't fair. Before labeling someone as selfish, lazy, rude, or stupid, pause. You may be seeing one difficult moment in a much larger life. Perhaps they're tired. Perhaps they misunderstood. Perhaps they're dealing with something painful. This doesn't mean excusing every bad action. People are still responsible for their behavior. But understanding the situation before condemning the person makes you fairer and more compassionate. 9. Sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy means continuing something simply because you've already invested time, energy, or money in it. You keep watching a terrible movie because you've already watched an hour. You continue a project that no longer makes sense because you've spent months on it. You remain committed to a bad decision because admitting the mistake feels painful. But the past has already been paid for. You cannot recover yesterday's investment by making another poor decision today. Ask yourself, if I had not already invested in this, would I choose it again now? If the answer is no, it may be time to change direction. Changing your mind isn't always weakness. Sometimes it is wisdom arriving later than you hoped. 10. Recency bias. Recency bias means giving too much importance to what happened most recently. Someone makes one mistake and we temporarily forget years of good behavior. Someone achieves one success and suddenly we assume they are brilliant at everything. The stock market rises for several weeks and people begin believing it will rise forever. But one recent moment does not always represent the whole story. People are not one mistake. You are not one failure. A relationship is not only its most recent argument. A career is not defined by one disappointing month. When your emotions are strong, avoid making permanent judgments from temporary moments. Give reality enough time to reveal the larger pattern. Kids, the point of learning about cognitive biases is not to stop trusting your minds. Your minds are extraordinary, but like your bodies and your characters, they need training. When something happens, practice asking, is this definitely true? What else could explain it? What might I be missing? Am I responding to reality or to a story my mind created? Is my pride trying to protect itself? Would I judge another person the same way I'm judging myself? Those questions create a pause, and that pause can change your life. Many bad decisions happen because emotion moves faster than wisdom. You feel insulted, so you attack. You feel afraid, so you avoid. You feel embarrassed, so you lie. You feel certain, so you stop listening. But when you pause, even for a few seconds, you give yourself a choice. You can choose humility over arrogance, curiosity over certainty, truth over ego, patience over judgment. So don't believe every thought simply because it appears in your mind. Respect your mind, but question it. Use it, but train it. Listen to it, but don't become its servant. Your mind will sometimes try to protect your pride instead of helping you discover the truth. When that happens, be strong enough to ask, what am I not seeing? Understanding cognitive biases isn't only about becoming a better thinker. It can also help you become a better friend, partner, parent, leader, and human being. You become less arrogant, more patient, more forgiving, more willing to listen, and more capable of seeing both yourself and other people clearly. And do not ever forget, I love you both very, very much.